The night was not quiet. The alien forest was alive with whispers, rustling leaves, and strange animal cries that echoed between twisted trees. Blue mist clung to the ground like a heavy blanket, glowing faintly under the alien moon. Every step seemed to sink into shadows that were too deep, too dark, as if the forest itself wanted to swallow anyone foolish enough to enter. A young alien girl ran through the maze of roots and vines, her breath sharp and broken. Her long hair stuck to her face with sweat, and her glowing eyes darted from side to side, searching for a path that wasn't there. Behind her, the sound came again, low growls, claws against bark, and the thud of something big moving fast. Heart pounded in her chest. She had escaped the cage, but the forest was another prison. The creatures were hunting her, and she knew they never gave up once they smelled fear. She stumbled on a root, nearly falling, but forced herself up again. "Please, not like this," she whispered to herself, though no one was there to hear. The forest seemed to laugh at her. Strange shapes moved in the mist. Shadows stretched, long and sharp. The air was heavy, and every breath tasted of rot. Her legs shook. She could not keep running forever. Then it happened. A roar shook the trees. One of the beasts broke from the mist, its eyes burning like fire, its teeth long and wet with hunger. The girl froze. Her body wanted to move, but terror locked her in place. The creature lunged, and then fire. A blinding flash lit the forest, followed by a deafening crack. The beast fell with a scream, smoke rising from a wound that burned deep in its chest. The girl gasped, shielding her eyes from the sudden light. A figure stepped out of the darkness. It was not like her people. It was taller, broader, its shoulders strong, its body wrapped in armor that had seen many battles. A weapon glowed in its hands, smoking from the shot it had fired. The man's eyes, human eyes, scanned the forest, hard and sharp, as if he had walked this deadly place before. The girl's knees gave out, and she fell to the ground. She stared at him in disbelief. She had heard stories of humans, soldiers from the stars, wanderers who were both feared and respected. But she had never seen one with her own eyes. He did not look at her right away. His attention stayed on the mist, on the shapes moving within it. Only when he was sure the danger had passed did he lower his weapon and glance at her. His face was shadowed, but she saw no smile, no warmth. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice calm but cold. She crawled closer, desperate. "Please, help me. They'll kill me." Her hands trembled as she reached for him. "I have nothing left, but I can give myself to you, anything you want. Just don't leave me here." The man's eyes narrowed. He stepped back. "No." The word struck her harder than the growl of the beasts. She blinked in confusion, her breath shaking. "But why?" "You saved me. I saved your life," he said flatly. "That doesn't mean I'll take your body." The girl felt shame burn her cheeks. She didn't understand. Among her people, debt was paid in flesh or in blood. If someone saved you, you gave yourself to them. It was the law of survival. But this human refused her as if she were nothing. Still, he did not walk away. He studied the forest again, raising his weapon. The shadows were not gone. The beasts were regrouping. Their eyes glowed in the dark like tiny stars, the girl's. Fear returned, stronger than before. She crawled to his side, clutching the edge of his armor. "Don't leave me," she whispered. The human sighed, as if tired of carrying burdens he did not ask for. Yet he pulled her to her feet and moved her behind him. "Stay close, they'll come again." The fire from his weapon flickered, casting long shadows on the trees. The forest hissed around them, the mist growing thicker, the growls louder. Girl pressed her body against his back, trembling. He stood firm, silent, his breath steady, his eyes locked forward. She wondered what kind of man would risk his life for someone he refused to even touch. A howl split the night, long and cruel. The creatures circled, unseen but everywhere. The girl's heart thumped like a drum. The human did not flinch. He only muttered one thing under his breath, too quiet for her to understand. Then the shadows moved, and the hunt began again. Asterisk. The fire cracked weakly in the middle of their small camp. It wasn't much, just dry sticks and broken branches gathered in haste, but it gave a circle of light that pushed the shadows back for a moment. Beyond that glow, the alien forest breathed and shifted, restless and alive, as if waiting for its chance to strike again. The human sat on a fallen log, his rifle resting across his knees. His armor was scratched, dirty, but his posture was sharp, his eyes scanning the darkness. He had not spoken since the fight. His face, half lit by the fire, looked carved from stone. The girl sat opposite him, knees drawn to her chest, trying to keep warm. Her eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the firelight, and her fingers fidgeted with the edge of her torn clothes. Every time the forest creaked, she flinched. Every time his gaze swept past her, she felt something twist in her chest. Fear, confusion, maybe even shame. She finally broke the silence. "You saved me again. I owe you." He didn't answer. His jaw tightened, but his eyes never left. "The shadows. I have nothing," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "No family, no home, no credits. Nothing but myself. If that is the price to stay with you, then I will pay it." The human's head turned slowly toward her. His stare was cold, steady, the kind of stare that cut deeper than any blade. "I told you, no." The girl's throat tightened. She hugged herself, her cheeks hot with embarrassment. Among her people, refusing an offer like that was almost an insult. She couldn't understand. Was she not enough? Too weak? Too broken? She tried again, desperate. "Why, do you not want me?" His answer was sharp. "I want you alive, that's all." Her lips parted, but no words came. She lowered her gaze, shame and anger fighting inside her. He didn't want her. He wanted her alive. The words felt strange, heavy, as if she was missing their true meaning. The forest groaned. Somewhere in the distance, a howl echoed through the night. The girl shivered and pulled closer to the fire. The human stood suddenly, scanning the tree line. "They're moving again." She looked up, frightened. "The creatures? They don't give up," he said. His voice was low, but there was certainty in it. He slung his rifle across his shoulder and began checking the traps he had set. Thin wires stretched between trees, sharpened stakes buried under leaves, strange devices that hummed faintly with human technology. The girl followed him with her eyes. Every move was precise, practiced. This was not the first time he had walked in such a place. He knew the forest. He knew how it killed. "You've been here before," she said softly. His hands paused for a moment on the wire. Then he went back to work, not answering. "You lost someone," she whispered. This time he turned, his eyes hard, his face shadowed by the firelight. For a moment she thought he would shout at her. But he only said one word, "Yes." That one word carried more weight than 1,000. She felt it sink into her chest. He had saved her life, but he was carrying ghosts of his own. Maybe that was why he refused her. Not because she was worthless, but because he had already given too much of himself to someone who was gone. The forest snapped. A branch broke, close this time. The human raised his weapon, his body tense, eyes searching. "Stay behind me," he ordered. The girl stood, her legs trembling, and moved closer. She wanted to ask him more, to understand him. But before she could speak, a roar shook the ground. The fire flickered, the shadows bent. And from the trees, glowing eyes appeared, dozens of them, circling, waiting. The girl's heart raced. "They found us." The human didn't move. His finger rested on the trigger, steady. His voice was calm, almost too calm. No, we stayed too long. They want us to move. To move? They're driving us, he muttered. Pushing us. Deeper, the girl's blood went cold. Why? His eyes narrowed. That's what I want to find out. A sudden crash shook the ground. From the mist, something massive stirred. A predator larger than the rest, its claws digging into the earth, its body glowing with strange markings that pulsed like fire under its skin. The girl's breath caught in her throat. The beast's fangs dripped with venom. Its growl shook the trees. The human raised his rifle, his jaw set. He didn't look at her. He didn't flinch, but the girl grabbed his arm, her voice breaking. Please, don't let it take me. His eyes stayed on the beast. His voice was quiet, almost a whisper. Stay behind me. That's all I ask. The beast stepped closer, the ground trembling under its weight. The fire guttered low. The forest seemed to hold its breath. And then, the beast roared and charged. The beast hit the traps first. Wires snapped tight, stakes burst from the earth, and the night exploded with snarls and sparks. But it was too strong. With one furious shake, it tore free, ripping metal and wood apart like nothing. The girl screamed and stumbled back, her glowing eyes wide with terror. The human didn't move. His rifle barked once, twice, each shot a burst of light in the mist. The beast staggered but did not fall. Its hide was thick, its fury endless. Run! The human shouted, but she couldn't. Her legs refused to obey. Fear rooted her in place, just like before. The forest around her seemed to close in, vines twisting, shadows bending, as if the world itself wanted her to stay. The human cursed under his breath. He dropped his rifle, drew a blade, and charged. Steel met scale, sparks flew, and the beast roared in pain. The ground shook with their clash. The girl's heart raced. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't. The human fought like no one she had ever seen, fast, brutal, fearless. Yet he was only one man, and the beast was huge. At last, with a final strike, he drove the blade deep into its neck. The monster thrashed, bellowed, then collapsed with a thunderous crash, shaking the earth beneath them. The forest fell silent. The human yanked his blade free, his chest rising and falling with hard breaths. He wiped blood, his own and the beast's, from his face, then turned toward her. You're still alive, he said simply. The girl trembled, her body weak. You saved me, again. He sheathed his blade and picked up his rifle. Don't thank me yet. That was just the first. Her eyes widened. The first? They're not hunting us, he said coldly. They're hurting us. She felt her stomach twist. Hurting us where? He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled her to her feet and forced her to walk. They moved deeper into the forest, the mist growing thicker, the air heavier. Every step felt wrong, as if unseen eyes guided their path. Finally, after what felt like hours, they stopped near a crooked tree with roots like claws. The human checked the shadows once more, before finally lowering his weapon. The girl sank onto the roots, clutching her knees. Why are they doing this? Why me? The human stared into the darkness, silent. But something in his face shifted, just slightly, a flicker of pain. She studied him closely, her voice soft. You've lost someone here, haven't you? He froze, his jaw tightened. Someone you cared about, she pressed. That's why you're like this. That's why you push me away. For the first time, his eyes met hers fully. They were not cold now. They were haunted. I lost everything in this forest, he said quietly. Someone I couldn't save. Someone who trusted me, and I failed. The girl's breath caught. She had guessed, but hearing it was different. His voice carried weight, years of guilt, carved into every word. I swore never again, he continued, his tone hardening. Never again would I get close. Never again would I take more than I could protect. Her heart ached. She wanted to comfort him, but she didn't know how. For her people, Pain was shared through the body. But he didn't want her that way. He wanted distance, control. Still she whispered, "You didn't fail me." He looked away. "Not yet." The forest groaned around them. The mist shifted. The girl shivered. "Then why me? Why do they want me?" She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "Because I escaped." His eyes narrowed. "Escaped what?" Her lips trembled. "A cage. A master. I was promised to him, against my will. When I ran, the forest was set upon me. It is his punishment." The human's fists clenched. His silence was sharper than anger. He stood, scanning the trees again. "So this isn't random," he muttered. "They're hunting you for him." She nodded slowly. Shame burning her cheek stopped before. Neither of them could speak more. The ground trembled. The roots under her feet shifted like living snakes. She screamed as a vine whipped around her ankle, pulling her down. The human lunged, his blade flashing. He hacked through the vine, freeing her, then dragged her up. The forest itself seemed alive now, twisting, reaching, "Move." He shouted. She stumbled after him, clutching his arm as roots lashed from the ground and branches clawed from above. But then, through the mist, dozens of glowing eyes appeared again. This time they weren't beasts. They were tall, armored figures, their weapons gleaming with cruel light. The girl gasped, her heart dropping. "No, not them." The human raised his rifle, stepping in front of her. "Who are they?" She whispered, her voice broken. "The hunters. My master's men. They've come to take me back." The forest went silent again. The hunters stepped forward. The girl's body shook. And the human's voice was calm, steady, unyielding. "Not while I'm alive." The armored hunters stood in a half circle, their weapons gleaming under the pale light of the alien moon. Their armor was black and silver, marked with cruel symbols that the girl knew too well. The sight of them made her chest tighten and her throat close. These were not strangers. These were her master's men. The human raised his rifle, steady as stone. His shadow stretched long across the mist, his body blocking her completely. He didn't move, didn't speak, but his presence was a wall between her and them. The leader of the hunters stepped forward. His helmet split open, revealing a face twisted with scars and glowing veins. His voice was deep, metallic, and filled with arrogance. "Give her back," he said, pointing a blade at the girl. "She belongs to Lord Zarin. You are nothing but a stray human. Step aside." The girl whimpered, her fingers clutching the back of the human's armor. She felt small, weak, but his silence gave her a strange kind of strength. He didn't look at her, didn't speak to her. His eyes were fixed on the hunters, unblinking. Finally he spoke. "She doesn't belong to anyone." The hunters laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the mist. The leader tilted his head. "Bold." Words from a dying man. In one motion, he raised his weapon, a spear crackling with electric energy. The hunters moved with him, their steps heavy, their formation perfect. They weren't beasts. They weren't shadows. They were soldiers, trained to kill. The girl's heart pounded. She whispered, "You can't fight them all." The human didn't reply. His rifle cracked once, the shot echoing through the trees. One hunter fell, armor shattered, body still. The others roared and charged. The battle erupted. The human moved. Like lightning. His rifle barked, his blade flashed, his traps exploded with smoke and fire. Hunters fell one by one, but they were many, and they fought with brutal skill. Sparks lit the night, steel clashed against steel. Screams tore through the mist. The girl crouched behind the roots, shaking, helpless. She wanted to run, but she couldn't. Every part of her screamed to stay close to him. He was her only shield, but then she noticed something. The hunters weren't killing him quickly. They were circling, forcing him back, driving him deeper into the forest, just like the beasts had done. Her eyes widened. "They're not fighting to kill you. They're Driving you. She shouted. The human kicked one hunter back, snapping its neck with the butt of his rifle. He turned to her, his expression hard. Say it. They're leading us somewhere. She cried. He growled, realization flashing in his eyes. This was no random hunt. This was a game. A trap. The hunters pressed forward again. The human fired. Until his rifle clicked empty. Then he threw it aside and drew his blade, his movements sharper, more desperate now. One of the hunters lunged at the girl. She screamed, but the human was faster. His blade cut through the hunter's chest, sparks flying as armor split open. He grabbed her hand and pulled her up. Move! He barked. They ran. The forest swallowed them, roots twisting under their feet, branches tearing at their skin. Behind them, the hunters gave chase, their armored boots pounding the earth. Girl stumbled, but the human dragged her on, his grip unyielding. His breath was harsh, his body bleeding, but his strength seemed endless. Where are they taking us? She gasped. He didn't answer. His jaw was tight, his eyes sharp. He already knew, but he didn't want to tell her. They broke into a clearing, and the sight froze her blood. The ground ahead was not natural. It was carved in strange patterns, glowing with red light. Symbols of chains and cages burned into the earth. In the center stood a massive stone arch, pulsing like a living thing. The air around it shimmered, heavy with power. The girl collapsed to her knees. No, not here. The human pulled her up, confused. What is it? Her voice shook. It's his gate, the master's gate. They're driving us to him. The human's grip tightened. His eyes flicked to the hunters emerging from the trees, surrounding them again. The leader's voice boomed, cruel and certain. You see now, human, you were never the hunter. You were the prey, and now you've walked into his hands. The girl clutched the human's arm, her tears hot against his armor. You can't fight him. No one fights him. The human's face was calm, unreadable. His blade dripped with blood, his body bruised and torn. He glanced at the gate, then at the hunters, then down at her. Then I'll do what no one else would, he said quietly. The leader raised his spear. The gate pulsed brighter. The ground shook. And from the arch, something vast and monstrous began to step through. The arch glowed brighter, its stone edges trembling like something alive. Cracks of red light spread across the ground, and from the gate poured a sound that made the air vibrate. A deep, endless growl that felt older than time. The girl clung to the human's arm, her body shaking. Her glowing eyes were wide with terror. He's coming. Lord Zarin is coming. The hunters dropped to one knee as if in worship, their weapons lowered, their voices chanting in a language the human didn't understand. The ground split wider, fire spilling up from the cracks. The human stood tall, his blade steady in his hand. He wasn't kneeling. He wasn't chanting. He was ready to fight. A monstrous hand reached through the gate, scaled, black and dripping with molten fire. Claws dug into the earth, tearing it apart. The master stepped forward, his massive body too large to belong to any single world. His face was hidden behind a mask of bone, his voice like thunder shaking the trees. You dare take what is mine, human. The girl whimpered and hid her face. Don't fight him, she begged. No one wins against him. But the human only said, we'll see. The hunters rose and attacked as one. Blades clashed, sparks flew, and the clearing became a storm of violence. The human moved through them like a shadow, his blade singing, his fists crushing, his body bleeding with every strike. One hunter slashed across his side. Blood sprayed. Another stabbed his shoulder. He roared in pain but struck back harder. The girl screamed, trying to run to him, but a hunter caught her arm. She kicked and clawed, desperate, until the human's blade cut through the hunter's chest, freeing her again. Stay behind me, he shouted, blood dripping from his wounds. She shook her head. You'll die. His eyes locked on hers, sharp even through the pain. Then I'll die fighting. But not kneeling. The words burned into her. Fierce and unyielding. He wasn't like her people. He didn't bow. He didn't submit. Even against monsters, even against gods, he stood. But the hunters kept coming. His movements slowed. His breaths grew harsh. Blood soaked his armor, his strength fading. Yet every time she thought he would fall, he rose again, his blade cutting. His fists breaking. The master's voice rumbled across the clearing. Pathetic creature, you bleed for nothing. Give her to me, and I will spare your end. The human spat blood into the fire. You'll have her over my dead body. The master's laughter shook the earth. So be it. The gate flared, and chains of fire lashed out from the arch. They wrapped around the girl's wrists and ankles, burning hot. She screamed, pulled toward the master. No. She cried, reaching for the human. He didn't hesitate. Wounded, staggering, he leapt forward and grabbed the chains with his bare hands. The fire burned his flesh, smoke rising from his skin. His teeth clenched, his arms trembling, but he pulled with everything he had. The hunters froze, watching in disbelief. No one touched the master's chains. No one defied them. But this human did. The girl sobbed, pulling against the fire, but he pulled harder. His muscles shook, his skin blistered, his blood dripping on the burning ground. With a roar that shook the night, he tore the chains apart. The fire exploded into sparks, vanishing. The girl fell into his arms, weak and crying. He held her close for one moment, his breath harsh in her ear. I said, "Stay behind me," but he swayed. His body bled from a dozen wounds, his skin scorched, his armor cracked. She pressed her glowing hands against his chest, trying to heal him the way her people healed, but he grabbed her wrist and pushed it away. "Not like that," he whispered. His eyes were steady, even as his strength faded. "Not as payment, not as debt. You live because I chose it. Nothing more." Her tears spilled faster. "Then why? Why suffer for me?" His voice was rough, quiet. "Because you deserve more than chains." Before she could answer, the ground shook again. The master stepped fully through the arch, towering over them, fire dripping from his body like blood. His eyes glowed with hatred. "You will break, human," he thundered. "And when you do, she is mine." The girl clutched the human's arm, her voice trembling. "You can't fight him." The human's body shook, his wounds burning, but his blade rose again. His voice was steady, calm, and deadly. "Then I'll break him first." The master roared. The hunters screamed. Fire swallowed the clearing. And the human charged. The clearing was fire and shadow. The ground cracked open with heat. Trees bent and snapped under the weight of the master's power. Hunters circled, chanting in fevered voices, their glowing armor reflecting the flames. In the center, the human stood. His blade was raised, but his body trembled. Blood ran down his side. His hands blistered from the chains he had broken. Still, he did not kneel. Still, he faced the towering figure of Lord Zarin. The girl pressed close against him, her glowing hands reaching for his wounds. "Let me heal you, please." He pushed her hand away again, his voice rough but steady. "I said no. I don't want your body. I don't want your debt. I want you alive." Her throat tightened, her tears burning. "Why? Why do you care if I live?" His eyes flicked to hers, sharp even in the firelight. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw softness. Then it was gone, replaced with cold steel. "Because I've already failed once, I won't fail again." The master's voice rolled like thunder, mocking. "Noble words, little human, but honor will not save you. Strength will not save you. She is mine. She was born for me. She is bound to me." The girl shook her head violently. "No, I never wanted you." Her voice broke, rising with desperation. "Tell him," she begged the human. "Tell him I don't belong to him." The human's jaw tightened. His voice was sharp, cutting. She belongs to no one. The hunters roared in anger, raising their weapons. Lord Zarin spread his arms wide, fire dripping from his claws. Then I will break you both. She will crawl to me when you are ash. The human charged. Steel clashed against burning claws. Sparks burst with every strike, the sound of thunder and metal filling the air. The human fought with everything left in him, his strength, his rage, his grief. Every swing of his blade was defiance. Every roar from his chest was a refusal to surrender, but the master was not like the hunters. He was faster, stronger, ancient. His claws cut through trees, his fire burned through traps, his body did not fall. He struck the human again and again, sending him crashing into the dirt, blood spraying across the stones. The girl screamed, running to his side. She lifted his head into her lap, her hands shaking. You can't win. Please, don't fight him anymore. If you die, I have nothing left. The human spat blood, his eyes blurry, his voice low. If I fall, you keep running. Don't stop. She shook her head violently. No, I won't leave you. Don't you understand? I ran from chains, from cages, from everyone who wanted to own me. And when you saved me, I offered myself because that's all I thought I was worth, but you refused. Her voice broke, tears spilling down her face, and for the first time, I felt like I was more than a body. Her words cut through the smoke, through the fire, through the pain. The human's hand tightened on his blade. Slowly, with a groan, he pushed himself up. The master snarled. Pathetic. You think her words give you strength? You think love will save you? The human stood, blood dripping from every wound. His eyes were sharp, burning now with something the master did not expect. Not fear, not surrender, resolve, not love, he growled. Choice. And then he moved, faster than before, fiercer than before, as if her confession had torn down the walls he had built around his heart. His blade struck with new strength, his body moving with reckless defiance. He drove the master back step by step, sparks flying with every clash. The hunters watched in shock. Never had anyone forced their lord to retreat. The girl stared, her chest tight. He's fighting for me. But the master was not finished. With a roar that shook the clearing, he drove his claws into the ground. The earth split open, chains of fire shooting up like serpents. They wrapped around the human's arms, his chest, his legs. He fought, but the chains tightened, burning deep into his flesh. Smoke rose from his body. His blade fell from his hand. The girl screamed his name. No, Lord Zarin loomed over him, towering, victorious. Now, little human, watch as I take what you bled for. She will crawl to me. She will kneel. The girl's body shook. Her tears fell hot on her cheeks. But then she stood. For the first time, she did not hide behind him. She stepped forward, her small frame glowing against the fire. You will not take me, she said, her voice shaking, but loud. I am not yours, not anymore. The hunters hissed. The master's eyes blazed, and the chains binding the human cracked, faintly, as if her words had power of their own. The human raised his head, blood dripping from his mouth, his voice hoarse but strong. Say it again. She looked at him, tears burning, her voice louder this time. I am not yours. The chains split. The fire screamed dot, and the master roared in rage. The clearing shook under the master's rage. Flames rose high, licking the sky, casting everything in a red glow. Hunters screamed, chanting louder, as if their voices could strengthen their lord. The ground cracked open wider, swallowing roots. And trees. The chains binding the human splintered, glowing with cracks of white light. His muscles burned, his skin smoked, but he pulled against them, teeth clenched, refusing to bow. The girl stood before him, glowing faintly, her voice cutting through the chaos. I am not yours, she cried again, louder than the fire, louder than the chants. "I will never belong to you." Her defiance hit the clearing like a wave. The hunters staggered. The master snarled, his claws tightening. "Ungrateful wretch! I made you. I marked you. You are mine." "No," she whispered, and this time her voice was steady. She turned her head toward the human, her glowing eyes locked on his. "I choose him." The chains shattered Dot with a roar. The human tore free, the broken fire exploding into sparks that lit the clearing. He stumbled forward, his blade back in his hand, his eyes burning with a fury deeper than the flames. The master recoiled for the first time. Impossible. The human spat blood and raised his weapon. Not impossible, human. And then he attacked. The clash was brutal. Steel against claw, fire against flesh. Every strike shook the clearing, sparks and embers flying into the night. The master struck with the strength of a god, but the human struck with something fiercer, choice, will, and a promise he refused to break. The girl watched, her chest tight, every heartbeat screaming that he would fall. But each time the master struck him down, he rose again, his blade cutting deeper, his fists breaking through armor and fire alike. Finally, with a roar, the human drove his blade deep into the master's chest. Flames burst outward, the ground shaking violently. The hunters screamed as cracks spread through their armor, their voices breaking into silence. The master staggered, fire pouring from his wound. His voice was no longer thunder. It was weak, broken. "She was mine." The human leaned close, his voice cold. "Not anymore." With one final push, he tore his blade free. The master's body collapsed into fire and ash, sucked back into the gate. The arch cracked, splintered, then shattered, exploding into shards of stone that rained across the clearing. Silence fell. The hunters were gone. The fire died. The mist thinned. The forest, for the first time, was quiet. The human fell to one knee, blood dripping, his body barely holding. The girl rushed to him, catching him before he collapsed completely. She held his face in her hands, tears streaking her cheeks. "You did it," she whispered. "You saved me." His breathing was rough, shallow. His eyes were heavy, but they still burned with life. "You saved yourself," he said softly. She shook her head. "No, without you, I never would have spoken. Never would have fought. You broke my chains." Her voice cracked, and she pulled him close, her tears falling onto his burned skin. "Please, don't die now." "Not when I finally found you." He gave a faint, tired smile. "I told you. I didn't want your body. I wanted your choice." Her lips trembled. "And I chose you." The forest seemed to hold its breath. For a moment, there was only silence, only the sound of her sobs and his shallow breaths. She pressed her forehead to his, her voice breaking into a whisper. "You refused me once, but will you refuse me now?" The human's eyes closed, his body still. For a heartbeat, she thought she had lost him. Her tears fell faster, then his hand moved, weak but sure, pressing against hers. His lips parted, a faint breath escaping. "Not this time." The girl's tears turned to laughter, broken but filled with hope. She held him tighter, refusing to let go, as the first light of dawn broke through the trees. But far in the distance, deep within the forest, the ground stirred. Again, a low rumble rolled under the earth, too faint for her to notice. The game was not over.